Hello my scholars, you are welcome to my school YouTube channel and my name is Frank. In today's video we shall be tackling JAMB CBT mathematics past question for the year 2004. So relax, do not go anywhere and we'll be right back. You are welcome back to my school YouTube channel. In today's video, we shall be answering question 26 to 50. So let's begin with question 26. What are the integer values of s which satisfy the inequality minus 1 is less than 3, minus 2s is less than or equal to 5? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So when you are given this type of problem on inequality that have two inequality symbols, first thing first is just for you to divide it into two, okay, and you solve them part by part, okay. So this should be the first part, so let's solve this part first, okay. So now we are now having minus 1 is less than 3 minus 2s, so we can collect like terms. So basically we move 3 to this side, so if we move 3 to this side, we'll be having minus 4 is less than minus 2. Okay, so let's change this. So let's move this minus 2 to this side. Now remember what you are having here is minus 4 is less than minus 2. So if we read this in reverse, that means you are having minus 2s is greater than minus 4. So if we rewrite this, we'll be having minus 2s is greater than minus 4. Okay, so if we read it from this side, we'll be having minus 4 is less than minus 2x. Okay, so from here we cannot get the value of s. So to get the value of s, we simply divide both sides by minus 2, which is the coefficient of x, right? Then, but remember that when you are dividing with negative value, your inequality sign is definitely going to change. So if we divide by 2, we'll be having s to be less than 2. Okay, so we'll be having s is less than 2. So this is the first part. So let's take the second part. So the second part will be from here, okay, to this side, so which is 3 minus 2s is less than or equal to 5. So here we just calculate for the value of x2. So we move 3 to this side of the equation, so that we'll be having minus 2s is less than or equal to 5 minus 2. Okay, so we divide both sides. Of course, this will be equals to minus 2x is less than or equal to minus, sorry, this is 3, okay, less than or equal to 2. So we divide both sides by the coefficient of s, which is minus 2. So that we'll be having s is greater than or equal to minus 1, okay, since we divided by minus 2. So these two answers, we can put them together, okay, so that we can find the range of the value of x. Okay, so yes, since we are saying s is greater than or equal to minus 1, it simply means that minus 1 is less than or equal to x. Okay, but remember that here s is less than 2. Okay, so the range of the values in this case will now be minus 1, then 0 and 1. Okay, since our s is less than 2, okay, that means our s is not up to 2, but here we are told that our minus 1 is less than or equal to x, so that is why minus 1 is the part of the answer. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option D, minus 1, 0 and 1. Question 27. Given that the first and fourth terms of GP are 6 and 162 respectively, find the sum of the first 3 terms of the progression. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So in this question, we are given the first term, which is often presented with letter A, okay, to be equals to 6, and the fourth term to be equals to 162. Okay, so remember that the nth term of a GP is a raised to power n minus 1. So if we are looking for T4 now, which is the fourth term, in this case we'll be having a then arrow raised to power 4 minus 1, and this will be equals to a raised to power 3. Okay, meaning that the fourth term is equals to a raised to power 3. Okay, so a raised to power 3 is equals to 162, since we are told that the fourth term is equals to 162. But remember, in this question, we are given the first term to be equals to 6. So here we replace it with 6 so that we can get the value of r. So we have 6 r raised to power 3 is equals to 162. So we divide both sides by 6, which is the coefficient of r raised to power 3. So that r raised to power 3 is equals to 162 divided by 6. And this will be equals to 27. Okay? So, but remember, we are looking for r, not r raised to power 3. So in this case, we have to take the cube root of both sides to get the value of r. So if we take the cube root of arrow cube, okay, we'll have arrow. And if we take the cube root of 27, that will be equals to 3. Okay, so now we know the first term to be equals to 6. Of course, that is given to us, and the common ratio to be equals to 3. Now we can now calculate for the sum of the first 3 terms. So if the first term a is equals to 6, then the second term will be a arrow. Okay, in this case, which will be equals to 6 times 3. Okay, and that will give us 18. Then the third term in this case will now be a raised to power 2. Okay, which will be equals to 6 times 9. Okay, because our common ratio is 3. So 6 times 9 is 54. Okay, it's 54. So if we add all this together, that will be equals to 72. Okay, so let's add it together. 54 plus 18, then plus 6. Okay, so if we add these two together, that will be equals to 12. Then 12 plus that will give us 18. Then that will give us 78. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question. Okay, and that is option C, 78. Question 28. If the operation star on the set of integers is defined by p star q is equals to root pq, find the value of 4 star in bracket 8 star 32. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically, whenever you are given questions like this, just know that you solve this question as if you are solving substitution, problem on substitution. So the p here will be equals to 8 and the q here is equals to 32. Simply because we first of all deal with what is in the bracket, okay, before we deal with anything that is outside the bracket. Okay, so p star q, that will be 8 star 32. So we just substitute it and put it here. So here we're having root 8 times 32. Okay, and this will be equals to 8 times 32 is equals to 256. Okay, and the square root of 256 is equals to the 16. Okay, it's equals to 16. So now we are now having 4 star 16. So in this case, our p will now be 4, while our q will now be 16. So we resubstitute it into the given expression, which is this. So p star q will now be equals to 4 star 16. This will be equals to root 4 times 16. Okay, so let's take it gradually. Of course, this is the same thing as say root 4 times root 16. So root 4 is equals to 2, then times root 16 is equals to 4, right? So 2 times 4 is equals to 8. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 8. Question 29. Find the remainder when 3s cubed plus 5s squared minus 11s plus 4 is divided by x plus 3. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is a simple question on polynomial. Okay, so this is division in polynomial. So basically, to perform division in polynomial, since we are looking for the remainder, so what we simply do is that the divisor, which is s plus 3, we equate it to 0 so that we can get the value of x. So once we get the value of x, we substitute it into the given expression. Okay, so in this case, we're having x plus 3 to be equals to 0. That is when we are applying the remainder theorem. So that s will now be equals to minus 3. So anywhere we see x, we replace it with minus 3. So let's do that. So here we'll be having 3, then bracket minus 3 raised to power 3, then plus 5 bracket minus 3 raised to power 2, then minus 11 bracket minus 3 plus 4. Okay, so so here we'll be having 3 times, so this will be equals to minus 27. Okay, then plus, of course, minus 3 raised to power 2 is going to give us 10. So it's going to give us 9, sorry. So 5 times 9, that will give us 45. Then minus, now here we'll have minus and we also have minus here. So minus is going to be plus. So 11 times 3, that will give us plus 33. Then plus 4. Okay, so let's tidy up everything. So if we use 3 to multiply 27, that will be minus 27, that will be equals to minus 81. Okay, then plus. Now if we add 45 plus 33 plus 4, that will be equals to 82. Okay, so if we subtract, here we'll be having 1. Okay, so the remainder is equals to 1. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 1. Question 30. The nth term of two sequences are Qn is equals to 3 times 2 raised to power n minus 2, and um is equals to 3 times 2 raised to power 2n minus 3. Find the product of Q2 and U2. So basically what they are saying here is that these 2 here you are seeing here actually represent this n. What they are telling you is that here in Qn, okay, this n is equals to 2, and for this m is equals to 2. So anywhere you see m in this equation, you replace it with 2. And for this, anywhere you see n, you replace it with 2. So basically, that is what this question is saying. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So for Q2, in this case, we'll be having 3 times 2 raised to power 2 minus 2. Okay, now remember that 2 raised to 2 minus 2 is equals to 0, and 2 raised to power 0 is equals to 1. So here we'll be having 3 because 3 times 1 is equals to 3. While for U2, we'll be having 3 times 2 raised to power 2 bracket 2, then minus 3. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So 2 raised to power 1 is 2. So here we'll be having 3 times 2, and that will be equals to 6. So since we are asked to find the product, meaning we should multiply the result of Q2 and U2, that will be equals to Q2 times U2 will be equals to 3 times 6, and this will be equals to 18. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 18. Question 31. Factorize completely AC minus 2BC minus a square plus 4b squared. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically we are asked to factorize this completely. So first thing first, just for us to group, since they are up to 4, so we group them 2. So we put the first 2 together and we put the last 2 together. Okay, so we can factorize this. So if we factorize here, since we have c is common between the 2 terms inside the first bracket, we bring out c, then we'll be having a minus 2b left. Okay, so we'll put that in bracket. But if we check this other bracket, we have minus here, so we can actually factor out that minus. So if we factor out that minus, we'll be having minus, then bracket a square minus 4b squared. So if you check this very well, we can write what we have inside this bracket as a square minus 2 square b squared. Okay, because 4 is the same thing as 2 raised to power 2. So that here we'll be having difference of 2 squared. So to factorize difference of 2 squared, it's usually a then plus b in bracket. So in this case, we are going to be having 2b. Okay, 2b then bracket a minus 2b. So remember, we still have our minus outside. So let's put everything together. So if we put everything together, we'll be having minus here, then bracket a minus plus 2b, then open bracket a minus 2b in bracket. Okay, remember this minus is affecting everything inside the second bracket here, which is this. Okay, so now if you check very well, this term, what we have in this bracket, the first bracket here, which is a minus 2b, is also common to this, so we bring it out. So here we'll be having a minus 2b, then we now combine what is left. So what is left here is c. Okay, so here we have c, so here we're having in another bracket c, then minus in bracket a plus 2b. Okay, so we can actually open this bracket by using minus 1 because of this minus here to multiply everything inside the bracket, so that our final answer is now a minus 2b in bracket, then bracket c minus a minus 2b. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A. Question 32. Find the sum to infinity of the series 1 over 2, 1 over 6, 1 over 18, then dash, dash, dash. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So remember that the formula for calculating sum to infinity is given as a all over 1 minus arrow, okay, provided that your arrow is less than 1. Okay, so from here, let's find our arrow, because our arrow, which is the common ratio, is not given to us, but let's find it out. So for us to get our common ratio, it's just for us to divide the second term by the first term, or divide the third term by the second term. So remember, our first term is 1 over 2, while the second term is 1 over 6. So if we divide, we'll be having 1 over 6 divided by 1 over 2, which is 1 over 6 times 2 over 1. Okay, so 2 here is 1, 2 here is 3. So that means our common ratio R is equals to 1 over 3, which is less than 1. So that means we can make use of this formula. Okay, so sum to infinity now that becomes, the first term is 1 over 2, then over 1 minus 1 over 3. Okay, so remember that 1 minus 1 over 3 is equals to 2 over 3, which is 1 over 1 minus 1 over 3. So LCM of 1 and 3 is 3. So 1 into 3 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Then minus, which is this minus sign. 3 into 3 is 1. Okay, then 1 times 1 is 1. So 3 minus 1 will be 2, and over the LCM of the denominator, which is 3, right? So this becomes 1 over 2, then over 2 over 3. So we can rewrite this as 1 over 2 divided by, which is this sign here, divided by 2 over 3. So this becomes 1 over 2 times, then you change this, you invert, 3 over 2. So this will be equals to 3 over 4, because 2 times 2 will be equals to 4, then 1 times 3 will be equals to 3. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 3 over 4. Question 33. The length L of a simple pendulum varies directly as the square of its period, T. If a pendulum with period 4 seconds is 64 centimeters long, find the length of the pendulum whose period is 9 seconds. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So in this question, we are told that the length of the pendulum is directly proportional to the square of the period. Okay, so this is just a relationship. We have to introduce a constant to, so that we can make an equation from this. So L will now be equals to KT squared. Okay, so the essence of the first values of L and T that is given to us is so that we can find the value of the constant. So we just substitute. So since we are, okay, so let's substitute. So here we'll be having L is 64. This will be equals to K. Then our T is 4, which is period. So you'll be having 4 square. So 64 will now be equals to 16K. Okay, now since we are looking for the value of K, we divide both sides by the coefficient of K, so that K is equals to 64 divided by 16, and this will be equals to 4. Okay, so the value of K is equals to 4. So we can now come back to this equation and substitute and put the value of K there. So we now have L is equals to 4T squared. Okay, so in this question we are asked to find the value of L when T is equals to 9. So L will now be equals to times 9 raised to power 2. Okay, so this will be equals to L is equals to 4 times 81. Okay, so 4 times 81 will be 4, then that will be 3, 2. Okay, so our answer is equals to 324. Okay, that is 324 centimeters since we are talking about length. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 324 centimeters. Question 34. 3 teachers shared a packet of chalk. The first teacher got 2/5 of the chalk, and the second teacher received 2/15 of the remainder. What fraction did the third teacher receive? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So in this case, the packet of chalk will be assumed to be whole. That is equals to 1. Okay, so the first teacher received 2/5 of 1, and that will be equals to 2/5. So this is what the first teacher received, okay, of the packet of chalk. Okay, then what is now left from the packet of chalk? So in this case, that will be 1 minus 2/5, and this will be equals to 3/5. Okay, LCM of 1 and 5 is 5, then 1 into 5 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5, then minus 5 into 5 is 1, then 1 times 2 is 2, then 5 minus 2, that will be equals to 3, then over the LCM of 1 and 5. Okay, so this is the remainder. But remember, in this question we are told that the second teacher received 2/15 of the remainder. Okay, so second teacher share will be equals to 2/15 of the remainder, which is 2/15 times 3/5. Okay, and this will be equals to, okay, so 3 here is 1, 3 here is 5, and this will be equals to 2/25. So this is what the second teacher received of the packet of chalk. So what did the third teacher receive? Okay, so let's do that. So to get what the third teacher received, it's just for us to subtract what the first teacher and the second teacher received from 1. Okay, so in this case we'll be having 1 minus 2/5 minus 2/25. Okay, so this is also over 1. So let's look for the LCM of 1, 5, and 25. So the LCM of 1, 5, and 25 is 25. Okay, so 1 into 25 is going to give us 25. So 25 times 1 is 25, then minus, which is this minus, okay, then 5 into 25, that is going to be equals to 5. So 5 times 2, that will be 10, then minus 25 into 25 is 1, then 1 times 2, that will be 2, so here we'll have 2, okay? So here we're now having 25 minus 10 minus 2, and that will be equals to 13/25, okay? So the third teacher received 13/25 of the chalk. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option D, 13/25. Do you know you can take practice question with our JAMB simulated CBT past questions? All you need to do is to click on the link in the description below, and that will take you to my school website. There you will have to download my school mobile app for your Android devices and my school software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Moving on to question 35. If 6 log 2 base x minus 3 log 3 base s is equals to 3 log 0.2 base 5, find s. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So to solve questions of this kind, it's important for you to know how to convert from logarithmic form to index form. Okay, so first thing first, let's calculate for this part. Okay, because everything here is complete, there's no unknown, so we can actually get a value for this, for 3 log 0.2 base 5. Okay, so let's do that here. So 3 log 0.2 base 5. Let's say let it be equals to y. Okay, but remember that 0.2 is equals to 0.2 is also equals to 1/5. Okay, and according to the law of indices, 1 over 5 is the same as 5 raised to power minus 1. Okay, so in place of 0.2, we are going to be using 5 raised to power minus 1. So here we have 3 log 5 raised to power minus 1 base 5 to be equals to y. Okay, now remember, according to the laws of logarithm, to this 3 here is actually the power of this 5 minus 1. Okay, so we can rewrite this to be equals to log 5 raised to power minus 1 in bracket raised to power 3 base 5 is equals to y. So remember the law of indices, when you have two powers like this, they multiply each other. So this is also equal to log 5 raised to power minus 3 base 5 is equals to y. So this is in logarithmic form. So we can now write this in index form. So to write this in index form, what we simply do is that we keep this number, which is 5 raised to power minus 3. So here we have 5 raised to power minus 3 to be equals to, then this 5, we bring it down here and we raise it to the power of y. So here will be equals to y. Okay, so if you check very well, the base of these two numbers are the same. Okay, there's 5 here, there's 5 here. We can equate the power so that y is equals to minus 3. Okay, so basically I'm going to clean this part because we've already gotten the value of what we have here to be equals to minus 3. Okay, so let me clean it. We already have it to be equals to minus 3. So let me just rewrite this. So here we're having log 2, okay, 6 log 2x minus 3 log 3 base x to be equals to minus 3. Okay, so we can as well still apply the laws of logarithm here. So this becomes log 2 raised to power 6 base x, then minus log 3 raised to power 3 base x to be equals to minus 3. Okay, then log 2 raised to power 6 is actually 64. So here we have 64 base x, then minus 3 raised to power 3 is 27. So here we have log 27 base s to be equals to minus 3. Okay, so here we have to apply the division law of logarithm. Okay, so when we have minus in between two logarithmic numbers, we simply divide their powers. Okay, we simply divide the numbers. So here we can factor out log x, then which is the base. Okay, then these two numbers we just divide. So here we're having 64 divided by 27. So the whole of this is equals to minus 3. Okay, so we now convert this to index form. So if we are to convert this to index form, we simply keep this. So we're having 64 over 27 to be equals to, then we write our s, then raised to power minus 3. Okay, remember that raised to power minus 3 means 1 over that value raised to power 3. So 64 over 27 will now be equals to 1 over s raised to power 3. Okay, because the power here is minus 3. So that's why our s is still raised to power 3. So we just cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, we're having 64s cubed to be equals to 27. So since we are looking for s, we have to divide both sides by 64. First of all, for the s cubed to be on its own. So s raised to power 3 will now be equals to 27 divided by 64. Okay, so the next step, since we are looking for x, not s raised to power 3, we take the cube root of both sides. So the cube root of s raised to power 3 will be equals to x. Then we take the cube root of 27 all over 64. But remember that this also means cube root of 27 all over cube root of, sorry, here is cube root of 64. Okay, so the cube root of 27 is equals to 3, meaning 3 the same numbers that you multiply together to give you 27, and that number is 3. So if 3 multiply itself 3 times, you are going to have it 27. Okay, so the cube root of it is, take 1 of it. So the cube root of 64 is 4. Okay, meaning that the value of s is equals to 3 over 4. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 3 over 4. I believe you are enjoying this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 36. Find P if 451 in base 6 minus P in base 7 is equals to 305 in base 6. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically we are looking for P. So we simply collect like things. So we'll move the minus P in base 7 to this side of the equation and move down 305 in base 6 to this side of the equation. Okay, so P in base 7 will now be equals to 451 in base 6 minus 305 in base 6. Now remember that 305 in base 6 is positive here. So once it crosses the equal to sign, it's going to change to minus. And the P in base 7 is minus here. Once it crosses the equal to sign, it's going to change to plus. Okay, that's the reason for this. So first of all, let's solve for this part. So to solve for this part, we have 451, then 305, all in base 6. So let's subtract. So if we are to subtract 5 minus 1 cannot. So we'll borrow 1 from here. And the one that we borrow, since we're operating in base 6, the one that we borrow is equals to 6. So if we add that 6 to this one, we'll be having 7, right? So 7 minus 5, that will be 2. Remember, in base 6. Then what is left here is 4. So 4 minus 0 is 4, okay? And here, 4 minus 3 is equals to 1, okay? So this is, so now we are now having P in base 7 to be equals to 142 in base 6, right? Now, basically here we have to convert this 142 in base 6 to base 7. Okay, but for us to do that, we'll first of all convert this value or this number in base 6 to base 10. Then from base 10, we'll now convert it to base 7. Okay, so let's convert 142 in base 6 to base 10. So this will be equals to 1 times 6. So here will be 0, here will be 1, here will be 2. So here we'll be having 1 times 6 raised to power 2, then plus 4 times 6 raised to power 1, then plus 2 times 6 raised to power 0. So this will be equals to, here we'll be having 36, then plus 24, then plus 2. Okay, because 6 raised to power 0 is 1, then 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so if we add these two together, we'll be having 72. Okay, so here we have 72 in base 10. Okay, so now that we have this 72 in base 10, we have to convert it to base 7 so that we can get the equivalent of 142 in base 6 in base 7. Okay, so if we to convert it, we will just use the successive division method. So here we'll be having 72, which is in base 10. Then we'll be having 7, which becomes the divisor. Okay, so 7 into 72, that will be 8. Okay, remainder 6. Then 7 into 8, that will be 1, remainder 1. Then 7 into 1, that will be 0, remainder 1. So we read it up like this. So we'll be having 116 in base 7. Okay, meaning that P in base 7 is equals to 1167. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 116 in base 7. Question 37. Given that cube root 42x is equals to 16, find the value of x. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So we are given the cube root of 4 raised to power 2x to be equals to 16, that we should find the value of x. So we can rewrite this. So remember that cube root means raised to power 1 over 3. Okay, so if we rewrite this, we're having 4 raised to power 2x in bracket raised to power 1 over 3. So these and this is still the same, and this is equals to 16. Okay, so if we multiply add the two powers, we'll be having 4 raised to power 2x all over 3, because 2x will multiply 1 and the invisible 1 here will multiply 3 to give us 2x all over 3. Okay, now our base here is 4, but if you look at this other side, we are having 16, which we can as well express in index form so that it will have the same base as 4. So in this case, we are having 4 raised to power 2x over 3 is equals to 4 raised to power 2. okay, because 4 raised to the power 2 is equals to 16 and the base are the same. So since the base are the same, we can equate the powers so that 2x over 3 is now equals to 2 over 1, okay? 2 over 1 is still the same thing as 2. So we cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, we're having 2s to be equals to 3 times 2. Now, but we are looking for s, not 2s. So we divide both sides by 2, which is the coefficient of x. So we'll be having s to be equals to 3 times 2 divided by 2. So 2, we cancel out 2, so that s is equals to 3. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 3. Question 38. Evaluate 1 over 10 times 2 over 3 plus 1 over 4 over 1 over 2 over 3 over 5 minus 1 over 4. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So to solve this question, we have to deal with the numerator first before we now deal with the denominator. Okay, so let's write out the denominator, which is 1 over 10 times 2 over 3 plus 1 over 4. Okay, so basically if we are using board mass, first of all, we deal with multiplication before we deal with addition. So that if we multiply out, or 2 here is 1, 2 here is going to give us 5. So that at the end of the day, we have 1 over 15 plus 1 over 4. Okay, so here we just look for the LCM of 15 and 4. And the LCM of 15 and 4 is 60. Okay, so we'll put 60 here. So 15 into 60 is going to give us 4. So 4 times 1, you'll be having 4. Then plus 4 into 60 is going to give us 15. So 15 times 1, that will be 15. So if we add the numerator, we'll be having 19 over 60, okay, for the numerator. Okay, then let's deal with the denominator. So the denominator is 1 over 2 over 3 over 5 minus 1 over 4. So let's deal with this part first. Okay, so this part 1 over 2 divided by 3 over 4, we can rewrite it as 1 over 2 then times 5 over 3. Okay, so then minus 1 over 4. So if we multiply out, we'll be having 5 over 6 minus 1 over 4. So let's deal with this. So here the LCM of 6 and 4 is 12. So put 12 here. So 6 into 12, that will be 2. Then 2 times 5, that will be equals to 10. So you'll have 10. Then minus, now 4 into 12, that will be 3. And 3 times 1, that will be 3. Okay, so 10 minus 3 will have 7 all over 21. So this is the denominator, while this is the numerator. So let's bring it together. Okay, so if we bring it together, we'll be having 19 over 60 divided by 7 over 12. Okay, so we can invert this. So we're having 19 over 60, then times 12 over 7. Okay, so 12 here is 1, 12 here is 5. So that at the end of the day, for the numerator, we have 19 times 1, which is 19. And for the denominator, we have 5 times 7, which is 35. So this is the answer to this question, 19 over 35. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question. And that is option B, 19 over 35. Question 39. The shaded region in the Venn diagram above is, so this is the Venn diagram that is given to us. So if you check the Venn diagram very well, you find out that it is the part connecting Q and arrow alone that is shaded, while the part connecting Q and P is not shaded, while the part connecting P and Q is not shaded. So basically what this means is that we are having an intersection. Okay, P intersect arrow also intersect what is not in P, which is P complement. Okay, so that means we're having P complement intersect what is in P and Q. That is the intercept of P and Q. Okay, so that makes option D the correct answer to this question. Question 40. Simplify 1 over root 3 plus 2 in the form a plus b root 3. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically, if you are given sort of this kind, first thing first is just for you to rationalize the denominator. Okay, and to rationalize the denominator of a sort is just for you to multiply both the numerator and denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. So the conjugate of root 3 plus 2 is equals to root 3 minus 2. So we are going to be using this to multiply the numerator and also by the denominator. So in this case, we are having 1 over root 3 plus 2 times root 3 minus 2 over root 3 minus 2. Okay, so if we multiply out the numerator, we still be having root 3 minus 2 over, then for the denominator, if you check very well, this is just like, say you have the result of factorizing the difference of 2 squared. So this becomes root 3 in bracket raised to power 2, then minus 2 raised to power 2. Okay, so at the end of the day, we still have root 3 minus 2 all over. So here we are going to be having 3 because the square, we cancel out the square root, then minus 2 raised to power 2 is 4. So we now have root 3 minus 2 all over minus 1. Okay, so we can rewrite this to be equals to root 3 all over minus 1, then minus 2 all over minus 1. Okay, so minus, we cancel out minus. So that at the end of the day, we have 2, which is positive now, then minus root 3. So this becomes our answer in the form A plus B root 3. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question. And that is option A, 2 minus root 3. Question 41. A farmer planted 5,000 grains of maize and harvested 5,000 cobs, each bearing 500 grains. What is the ratio of the number of grains sold to the number harvested? Okay, so if you look at the question very well, we are told that the farmer planted 500 grains. So in this question, we are looking for the number of grains sown. So the number of grains sown is 5,000. So let's put it here first. 5,000 representing the number of grains sown. Okay. Then we are now told that each bearing, that is each of the grain, okay, each of the harvested cobs, okay, bears 5,000 grains. That what is the ratio of the number of grains sown to the number harvested? Okay. So for us to get the number harvested, it's just for us to multiply these 5,000 cobs, okay, by 500 grains, because each of them, okay, actually bear 5,000 grains. So if we do that, we'll be having 5 times 5 is going to be 25, and we're having 50, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we're having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3 zeros here goes, and 3 0 here also goes. So 5 here is 1, then ratio 5 here is 5. So at the end of the day, we are now having 1 ratio 500. So that makes option C the correct answer to this question. Question 42. The shadow of a pole 5 root 3 meter high is 5 meters. Find the angle of elevation of the sun. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So the shadow is high, okay? So this represents the poles, and why this represents the shadow, which is 5 ratio 3. Okay, so we just close here, and we are looking for the angle of elevation of the sun. Okay, so the angle of elevation of the sun should be here, right? So in this question, we have the opposite and we have the adjacent. So in that case, we are going to be using tan. Remember your SOHCAHTOA. So, ka, then toa. Okay, so here we'll be using toa because we are giving opposite and we're also giving adjacent. So tan theta in this case will now be equals to 5 root 3 all over 5. So 5 we cancel out 5, so that we have tan theta to be equals to root 3. Okay, since we are looking for theta, we just take the tan inverse of both sides, so that theta is equals to tan inverse of root 3. okay, and this will be equals to 60 degrees. So remember, these are from those special angles. So I don't think it's a problem if you had watched the previous video before this one. Okay, so let's return back to the board to choose the correct answer, which is option D, 60 degrees. Question 43. The shaded area in the diagram above is represented by, so let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically, the region shaded above is more or less like we should find the equation that that graph represents. Okay, but in this case, it's an inequality, not an equation. So from what is given to us in the question, now remember that your S here, the 0 here represents x1 and this represents x2. Why? Because 0 is less than 2. So if you are counting, you first of all get to 0 before you get to 1. Okay, so take note of that. So if this is x1, then definitely this is y1. Okay, and this will now be y2. So it's just for us to get the value of m, okay, which is the gradient of that graph. Okay, so this will be equals to y2 minus y1 all over s2 minus s1. So let's substitute the values that we have. So here we'll be having 0 minus 6 all over 2 minus 0, okay, and this will be equals to minus 6 divided by 2, and this will be equals to minus 3. Okay, so we can actually get the intercept of this curve. So the curve intercepted the y-axis at y equals to 6. Okay, so if we use this form, y is equals to mx plus 6, we can actually get an answer to this question. So basically, it's just for us to substitute the values that are given to us. So our y will still remain. Then we bring in our m, which is the gradient of the graph or of the curve. Then you'll be having minus 3x. Then plus the intercept is at 6. Okay, on the y-axis. So here will now be 6. Okay, so basically we can move this to this side so that we're having y, then plus 3x. Okay, but remember the graph, the line of the curve of the graph is broken. So when the line is broken, you know that we are having not a straight inequality. Okay, we are not having a straight inequality. And remember that if under the line is shaded, we'll be having less than. So instead of minus, you'll be having less than 6. Okay, so this is the equation, or this is the inequality that represents that graph. Y plus 3s is less than 6. So let's move over to the board to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B. Question 44. PQROSTV is a regular polygon of sides 7 centimeters inscribed in a circle. Find the circumference of the circle PQROSTV. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So if we want to find, or if we want to calculate for the radius of a circle, okay, that covers a regular polygon, okay, that is if we want to calculate for the radius of circumcircle of a regular polygon, we simply use the formula rho is equals to x all over 2, then sine theta all over n. Okay, so we use this formula to calculate for the radius, where s here actually stands for the size of the side of the polygon, okay, while n here stands for the number of sides of the polygon. Okay, n here stands for the number of sides of the polygon, while s stands for the length or the size of the length of the polygon. Okay, so in this question, the size of the length of the polygon is 7, so we put 7 here, then all over 2, then sine. Of course, pi in radian is the same thing as 180 in degrees. Okay, so here we'll put 180, then all over 6. So this will be equals to 7 all over 2, then 180 divided by 6, that will be 30. So you'll have sine 30 degrees. So this will be 7 all over 2. Okay, then remember that sine 30 is 1 over 2. So 2 we cancel out 2. so that the size or the value of the radius of the circle is equals to 7 centimeters. Okay, but remember in this question we are asked to calculate for the circumference of the circle, right? So remember that the circumference of a circle is given as 2 pi r. Okay, this is the formula for calculating the circumference of a circle. So for this formula, you can use it for any polygon that is inscribed in a circle. Okay, you can use it for any polygon at all that is inscribed in a circle. So remember that your x here just represents the size of the length of the side of the polygon, while n represents the number of the polygon. But remember that in this case, the polygon that we are talking about here is actually hexagon. So that is why n here is equals to 6. Okay, so let's calculate for the circumference. So here we are having 2 times, remember pi is 22 over 7, then times the 7, which is the radius of the circle. So 7 will cancel out 7, so that if we multiply 2 by 22, the circumference of the circle will now be equals to 44 centimeters. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer for this question, and that is option D, 44 centimeters. Do you have any question to ask? If yes, please feel free to ask your question by simply clicking on the link in the description below, and that will take you to my school website. There you can ask all your questions, and our army of solution providers will provide solutions to all your questions within a short period of time. Moving on to question 45. The graph above shows the cumulative frequency curve of the distribution of marks in a class test. What percentage of the students scored more than 20 marks? So in order to solve this question, basically, of course, these questions are actually imputed, probably just so that students can spend some of their time. Okay, so to calculate for this question, we need to find the frequency of each of these class marks and not the cumulative frequency. But in order for us to do it, we must first of all get the cumulative frequency of these marks. Okay, so we are going to be doing that one after the other. So if you look at the graph carefully, you'll discover that in each of these square boxes, we have 10 small boxes. So, and from here, which is the 0 point, to here is 5, meaning that each of those small boxes is 0.5. Okay, so now let's get the cumulative frequency for the class mark 9. So if you look at this, if we count 1 to have 2 boxes, and this is where the curve actually touch the line connecting 9. So that means the cumulative frequency of 9 is actually 1. Okay, so we'll move over to the board to write it down, and we'll still return back, okay, to do for others. So here for 9, we write 1. Now let's return back for that of 14. So for 14, from here, we trace until we meet this line. So if you check very well, we have 2 boxes, which is 1, 2. So in that case, those 2 boxes is 1. So and here is 5, that means it's 6. The cumulative frequency of 14 is 6. So let's return back to the board to write it down, 6. So let's go back again to the screen to write for that of 19. Okay, so if you look at that of 19, it's a little bit almost like 15, right? So we can't say 0 point, so it's almost like 15, because if we trace it, if we trace 19 up until we made this line, we'll be getting it at 0.5. Okay, so in that case, we are going to take it as 16. So let's return back to the board to write it down. So here we are going to be having 16, or we can as well assume it as 15. So let's return back to the screen again to check for 24. Okay, so for 24, we are going to trace this until we meet this line. Okay, so we are meeting this line at this point. So let's count the number of boxes we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so let's just call it as 8, which is 2. So if we add it to this, that will now be 17. So let's return back to the screen to write it down. So here we have 17. Okay, so we can't be calling this. So in that case, let's take this as 15, while we call this as 17. Okay, so let's take this as 15 and we'll call this as 17. Now let's go for 29. So if you look at 29, 29 is almost close to the 25. Okay, so the graph is not that perfect. So in this case, we take it as 24. So let's return back to the screen. So here we'll be having 24. Okay, we'll be having 24. This part should be 29. why this part should be the 34. Okay, so for 34, look at 34 here, it just touches the graph at this point. So if you trace it down, that is 25. So here is 25. Now we cannot get the frequency. So to get the frequency, we just from here, from the base, okay, we subtract these two. So if we subtract these two, that will be equals to 1, okay, for this. If we subtract for 24 minus 17, okay, so 24 minus 17, that will be equals to 7, right? Then if we subtract for 15 and 17, that will be 2, okay? So there's no need again to continue because we are looking for values that are greater than 20. So remember 24 is greater than 20, okay? Now, remember that the last number here actually represents the sum of all the frequencies. Like if we add all the frequency, is going to be equal to the last value here. Now, if you check the graph, there's no cumulative frequency for 39. So that means 39 is not part of the solution. Okay, so if we add all the frequencies together from the beginning here to here, it's going to be equal to 25. Okay, so now since we are asked to calculate the percentage of students that scored more than 20, so if we add these three values together, we'll be having 10. So you'll be having 10 all over the total frequency, which is 25, then times 100. Okay, so 25 here is 1 and 25 here is 4. So 10 times 4, that will be equals to 40%. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 40%. Do you have better steps or solution to any of these questions? If yes, go to the comment section below to comment the question number and the solution you wish to share. Question 46. The inverse of the matrix 2, 1, 1, 1 is... So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So first of all, the first thing first is to calculate for the determinant of this matrix, since this is a 2 by 2 matrix, okay? So first of all, calculate for the determinant. So the determinant of this matrix, let's call it matrix A. Okay, let's name the matrix A. So the determinant of matrix A will be equals to 2 times 1, then minus 1 times 1. So this will be equals to 2, then minus 1, which is 1. Okay. Now, after we've done that, the next step is to multiply the minor diagonal by minus 1. Okay. And exchange the leading diagonal. Okay. So if we exchange the leading diagonal of that matrix and multiply this by 1, we'll be having 2. So here we'll be having 1, and here we'll be having 2. Then if we multiply 1 and 1 by 1, we're having minus 1 and minus 1, okay? Then the next step again is just for us to divide this, okay, or multiply this by the inverse of the determinant. So the inverse of the determinant means 1 over, okay, the determinant. So you'll be having 1 over 1. Remember that 1 over 1 is still 1 over 1. So the inverse of this matrix is 1 minus 1, minus 1 and 2. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 1 minus 1 minus 1 and 2. Question 47. If matrix P has this element, then now the double bracket or the double line means determinant. So basically they're asking us to find the determinant of matrix P. So let's move over to the board to simply do that. Okay, so for us to calculate the determinants of matrix P, of course we have different methods that we can do that, but let's use the most common method. Okay, so in this case, what we simply do, since we are looking for the determinant of matrix P, so what we do, first of all, keep this. So we keep this, then we look for the determinant of the first or the second 4 numbers, right? That is the next 4 numbers that are not connected to this matrix in row or in column. Okay, so here we'll be having bracket. So here we'll be having 4 times 1, which is 4, then minus 0 times 5, which is 0. So we'll put in bracket. Okay, so the next step is for us to do for this. So here we have plus, then 0, then we open bracket. So in this case, we are going to be using this and this because they are not connected at all to 0. Okay, so here we'll be having 3 times 1, that will be 3. Then minus, bracket open, minus 1 times 5, that will be minus 5. then bracket close. Then the next we have minus here. Okay, so the next thing to do, sorry, here we have minus, okay, why here we have plus, sorry. So here we'll be having minus 1, then bracket open. So we'll multiply any 4 elements that are not connected to minus 1, which is this 4. Okay, so 3 times 0, that will be 0, then minus 1 times 4, that will be minus 4. Okay, so let's tidy up everything. So here we'll be having 4 minus 0 is 4, then 4 times 1 is 4, so here we'll have 4. Then this 0 is multiplying everything inside this bracket, meaning that this whole place is out. Okay, so let's leave this place out. While here, inside the bracket first, we'll be having, now since we have minus here, so minus times minus is going to give us plus. Okay, then minus 1 times 4, that will be equals to minus 4. So here we'll be having minus 4. Okay, so minus 4 minus 4, that will be equals to 0, meaning that the determinant of matrix P is equals to 0. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 0. Question 48. Find the values of x where the curve y is equals to x raised to power 3 plus 2x raised to power 2 minus 5x minus 6 crosses the x-axis. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically they are asking you to find the point where this curve actually cuts the x-axis. Okay, so this curve, okay, we cut the x-axis when y is equals to 0. Okay, so in that case we can now calculate for the value of x. So what we are going to be doing here is just trial and error method. That's what we are going to be using. So our focus will be on the last term here. Okay, since the coefficient of x squared here is 1, right? So our attention should be here. So the factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. Okay, but basically since this is raised to power 3, we only need 3 values. So let's go with the first 3 values. Okay, so in this case we are going to be assuming that s is equals to plus or minus 1, s is equals to plus or minus 2, and s is equals to plus or minus 3, right? So we just carry any of these values and substitute it into this equation. So anyone that gives us 0 means that that is the value of x. Okay, so let's try with 1. So for y, we have 1 raised to power 3 plus 2 bracket 1 raised to power 2 minus 5 bracket 1 minus 6. So if we multiply, okay, so this will give us 1 raised to power 3 is still 1, then plus 2, then minus 5, okay, because we have minus here, minus 5 times 1 is still minus, then minus 6. So minus is already 11. Okay, so 1 plus 2 is already minus 11, so 1 plus 2 is 3, so which is not equal to 0. So that means the positive value of 1 is not correct as the value of x. So that means the one that is correct is when s is equals to minus 1. So if we substitute this into this equation, our answer is going to be 0. Okay, so let's leave this. So I've gotten one of the value as s is equals to minus 1. So let's try for when s is equals to 2, we are using the positive value. So once you try the positive or the negative value, anyone, and your answer is not equals to 0 after substituting for the value of s into this equation, it's not equals to 0, just know that the reverse will be the answer. Okay, so that is basically what I did here for the first one. So I tried the positive value and it's not equals to 0. So that means if I try the negative value to be equals to 0. So that is why I said s is equals to minus 1. So let's try it for 2. Okay, so you'll be having y is equals to 2 raised to power 3 plus 2 bracket 2 raised to power 2, then minus 5 bracket 2, then minus 6. So let's see if it will be equals to 0. Now remember, I am using the positive value of x. Okay, so here 2 raised to power 3 is 8, then plus 2 raised to power 2 is 4. Okay, 2 raised to power 2 is 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. Then here, minus 5 times 2, that will give us minus 10, then minus 6. So these two already is equals to 16. Then minus 10 is also equals to 16. So 16 minus 16 is 0. So that means the value of x, okay, is equals to 2, because when we substituted into the original equation is equals to 0. Okay, so that means one of the value of s is equals to 2. So let's go for the third one. So the third one is one we'll be using the positive value of 3, or in this case, let's even try using the negative value, since for the first two we use the positive value. So let's try the negative value for the last one. So for the last one, we'll be having x, okay, which is minus 3 raised to power 3, then plus 2 bracket minus 3 raised to power 2. So I'm using the negative value now. Then minus 5 bracket minus 3, then minus 6. Okay, so let's see. So minus 3 raised to power 3 will give us minus 27. Okay, then minus 3 raised to power 2 is going to give us 9, and 9 times 2 is 18. So let's put our 18 here. Then minus 5 times minus 3 is going to give us minus 50, sorry, plus 15, then minus 6. Okay, so let's see. Now here we have minus 27, then minus 6, then plus 18, then plus 15. Okay, so let's see. So minus 27 minus 6 is going to give us minus 33. So here we have minus 33. So let's see, 18 plus 15. Let's see what it will give to us. So here will be 3, and here will be also 3. But remember they are positive, so here will be plus 33. So if we subtract, if we add as usual, that is minus 33 plus 33, that will be equals to 0. So that means s is equals to 0, is equals to minus 3 in this case. Okay, so the three values of x are minus 1, then 2, then minus 3. Okay, so these are the three values of x: minus 1, 2, minus 3. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, because we got minus 1, then 2, and minus 3. So that makes option C the correct answer to this question. Question 49. Find x and y respectively in the subtraction carried out in the subtraction above carried out in base 5. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is the subtraction that was carried out above in base 5. So let's go ahead and find the value of x and y. So 3 minus 4 cannot. So since we are operating in base 5, we borrow 1 from here. So if we borrow 1 from here, we now have 3 left here. So that one that we borrowed, since we are operating in base 5, is equals to 5. So we'll add it to this 3. That will now be equals to 8. So 8 minus 4 will give us 4, which is correct. Now we have 3 left here. So had it been this place is 0, this s is 0, then here wouldn't have been 4. Okay, so let's borrow 1 from here. So if we borrow 1 from here, that one that we borrowed is equals to 5. So if we add it to 3, that will be 8, right? Then x, then here we're now having 4. So since we are having 4 here, that means the x is actually equals to 4, because it's 8 minus 4 that will be equals to 4, meaning that the x here is actually equals to 4. Since we are having 8 here, then 8 minus 4, that is what will give us 4. Okay, so our s is equals to 4. Now let's move down to this part. So here we're having 1 minus 3, cannot, so we have to borrow 1 from here. So once we borrow 1 from here, we have 3 left here. Okay, so that one that we borrowed from here is equals to 5. We add it to this 1, that will be equals to 6. 5 plus 1 is 6. Then minus 3, that will give us 3, which agrees with the solution, right? So here we're now having 3, and we're now having 1. 3 minus 1, that will be equals to 2. So that means y is equals to 2. Okay, so the value of s is 4, while the value of y is 2. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question. And that is option C, 4 and 2. Okay, so 4 for x and 2 for y. Question 50. In a class of 40 students, each student offers at least one of physics and chemistry. If the number of students that offer physics is 3 times the number that offer both subjects, and the number that offer chemistry is twice the number that offer physics, find the number of students that offer physics only. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So in this question, we were given the number of students to be equals to 40, and we are told that the number of students that offer physics is 3 times the number that offer both subjects. But we don't know the number of students that offer both subjects. So in that case, we will say, let it be S, so that the number of students that offer physics, okay, will now be equals to 3S. And in this question also, we were told that the number that offer chemistry is twice the number that offer physics. So the number that offer physics is 3x. So the number of those that offer chemistry will be 2 times the number that offer physics, which is 6x. So we can just construct a Venn diagram to represent this. So these are Venn diagrams. So S represents number of students that offer both subjects. So let's call here physics and call this one chemistry. So the number of students that offer chemistry is 6x, while the number of students that offer physics is 3x. Okay, while the total number of students in the class is equals to 40, right? So here we can actually calculate for the number of students that offer physics alone. Okay, so what we are having here also include the value we are having here in this box also include those that offer both subjects. So in order for us to get those that offer only, in this case we now subtract x from here, okay, and also subtract x from here. So if I subtract x from here, I'll be having 2x. So this 2x represent those that offer physics only, while 5x represent those that offer chemistry only, while x represent those that offer both subjects, right? So if we add those values together, it should be equals to the number of students in the class. So here we'll be having 2s, meaning those that offer physics only, plus those that offer both subjects, then plus those that offer chemistry only. So here will be 5s. So everything will be equals to 40, right? So if we add this together, we'll be having 8s. 2s plus s, 3s plus 5x, 8s is equals to 40. So we can get the value of s. So s is equals to 40 divided by 8, and this will be equals to 5. Okay, so the number of students that offer both subjects is equals to 5. Now, but in this question, we are asked to calculate for the number of students that offer physics only. So 2s here represent the number of students that offer physics only. Okay, 2s here represent the number of students that offer physics only. So to get the number, we just replace s with 5, which we have calculated from here, so that the number of students that offer physics only is equals to 2 times 5, which is equals to 10. So 10 students offers physics only. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 10 students. I believe you enjoyed this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.